News Talk Sports Powerhouse of the Gulf South. It's all things legal with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud. Underwritten by Nicaud and Stevenson Law Firm and the Sunseri Law Firm. Join us on the Oakland Heart Jewelers Talking Text Line 504-260-1870 or connect anytime, anywhere on the Audacy app. Now, live from our Gulf Coast Bank and Trust Company studios, the bank that cares about you. Here's Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri.
Hey, good morning. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. Give us a call at 260-1870 or text us at 260-1870 in the Oakland Heart Talk and Text line. Good morning, Albert.
Good morning, Doug. How are you?
Good. You know, the Mecca of this week, there was never such a merging of sports and legal colliding at LSU. Sports, legal, and politics. I mean, just like in the eye of the storm, and there's so much to talk about. I do want to talk about Brian Kelly's contract and, employment contracts and sort of discuss how that applies. But my goodness, we're like on every national sports talk show, TV, radio, pod. I say we, Louisiana, LSU, for the past week. And there's been a lot of, I think what the other rest of the nation finds interesting is the participation of government or the governor in this process. And I think there's been a lot of opinions. I think a lot of the opinions have been, how can I say, skewed a little bit. But on the other hand, one of the questions is, what is the role of the governor in picking the LSU coach? And I guess it goes back to UEP Long that we have a history of having a high degree of involvement in that. And so,
I don't know that he's necessarily picking the new coach.
no, right, but yeah.
Very clear in that LSU, this is state money that you're spending, and this was a stupid contract for 10 years, right? And so I think that was his point. Like, we got to stop doing it.
Well, yeah. Well, yes.
NIL money, all this other stuff, we want to put up money, right? But to have the school actually pay that amount with, both he and the AD have the same agent, I don't know.
Well, there is.
It's going to make it harder now for another coach to come here because now, I don't know.
I think historically, and we tell a story. Why is LSU? There's two reasons LSU is what is LSU football. One is UE Long, and the other reason is WWL 870 AM. As far as UE Long is concerned, what you had back post-Civil War was a state that was just in shambles. The economy was in shambles. We had no infrastructure. We had no education. You didn't in the early 1900s. You did not have a paved road from Shreveport to Baton Rouge. And then what Huey Long wanted to do, and this is a quick history lesson, is he wanted to find something that would unite the state of Louisiana from the mouth of the river all the way up to Caddo Parish. And what he did was he poured a lot of resources into LSU and LSU football. And his idea was, let's have something, even though our state is probably 50th, and in some ways continues to be 50th, in all these categories. We're a very poor state. We're an uneducated state. We don't have infrastructure. We have a class system that had, it was, the very rich and the very poor, not much of a middle class. And that what he wanted to do was find a source of pride that we all could have in Louisiana. And so what he did was he poured all these resources into LSU and LSU football. And, we all know about how the stadium was built with the student dorms. If Huey Long when LSU played Alabama one year, Huey Long told the railroad to charge a nickel for a train fare to Tuscaloosa. If they didn't do that, he would tax every bridge that every train crossed in the state of Louisiana. And right, yeah, right. So basically, that was his idea of what to do. Now, the second reason LSU is so big was in WWL had the 50,000 watt signal, and in the 50s, in the 60s, before you had ESPN, Andrew, before you had cell phones, and you only had you didn't. I mean, you didn't even have college football on TV. So LSU signal when they played on Saturday night went to 40 states across the nation. And so if you were in, if you were in Arizona, if you were in Chicago, if you were in West Virginia, you could catch the LSU signal on Saturday night. And so LSU, in essence, became America's team in the 50s and 60s. So hence why it's such a big deal as far as LSU picking a coach. But, I do want to correct something. You did have the state is not, and I just looked this up because I'd done some other contracts for coaches with LSU. The state is a surety or guarantee on the contract. Basically, you have the athletic department is the primary obligor on the contract. So the only way the state would, yes, they're primarily paying his salary. He's well, yeah, it's through that an entity, a different entity, yes, and basically the the way it works because it's sort of a hybrid and it's a sort of a unicorn because we're part state actor but it's private. The primary obligor is the athletic department, which is separate because we had some issues which is separate. Now I'll tell you, like when we had Coach Gennaro do a endorsement contract, I'll tell you interesting um, issue with that. But LSU the state only steps up if LSU defaults on the athletic department defaults on its obligations. But now it is indirectly taxpayer money. Now I will say this, which I don't think is arguable. If somebody puts up, they didn't put up 50,000. I'll tell you what I've heard later, or understood, or received information from. But if they theoretically, if they put up $50 million or $30 million, which I think is probably going to be closer to, there's an opportunity cost to that because you have to spend that $30 million to get at ground zero. In other words, all you're doing is you're not using that $30 million to improve LSU athletics. You're not doing it to improve facilities. You're not doing it to improve, just infrastructure of LSU football, or you're spending that's throwing good money at bad money. And so you do have an opportunity cost that you have that there's $30 million that's not going to be used to increase the, infrastructure of LSU football. It is to maintain where it is. So you do have an opportunity cost for that. And I think the other thing is how many times can you keep going to the well to do that? Now, I will say this: was that contract in hindsight bad? Yes. I mean, I definitely think that was a bad contract. And the other thing too is when you have a brand that is known all around the world, and you've been to Europe, I've been to Europe. I always wear my LSU shirt up there. I could be walking through an obscure town in Germany, and I'm going to hear "Go Tigers" if I'm wearing my LSU shirt. It is a worldwide brand. You don't need to beg people to come here. Okay, you don't need to throw out of unrealistic contracts to get them to come here. You just don't. I mean,
I can tell you that I think there's an X factor in all of this that you're very familiar with, and all of a sudden you don't need the $10 million a year coach anymore because it has nothing to do with recruiting. It only has to do with coaching and getting these kids to play. Because they're going to go play for the team that's paying them.
sure. It's the dynamics is different. And
yeah, so LSU is not this big attraction anymore. And so when got 18 million. A&M's going to get the better players because, yeah, somebody's got to coach them. Somebody's got to get them to play. Somebody's got to deal with the attitudes of these kids that just got a bunch of money. But, at the same time, I don't know that,
Well, yeah.
Nick Saban came here, right? People going to come here to be coached by Nick Saban, or they're going to say, look, I can make an extra
Well,
$2,000 going somewhere else.
well, you got rev share now. You're going to have the LSU's. The teams are going to get about $20 million. Now, the questions that the agents have to do is figure out, in other words, it comes from the no. The Power Four teams. The Power Four teams will have rev share, meaning it's basically they each get $20 million to split up on their team. Now, the NIL is separate, but I'll tell you the difference between NIL now is as before. You're going to have rev share $20 million. So what the agents are going to be doing is what portion of the rev share does your player get, and try to shop that around among the teams. Now, so you're going to be sort of level. It's going to be almost like a salary cap in LSU in the NFL, except then you have a second source of income as NIL. But before they were using NIL to they were just using it as a conduit to pay a player, even though he didn't do much. So in other words, if you get Garrett Musmeyer to be a spokesman for a chemical company, I mean, I don't think people are going to pick their chemical company or industrial companies out of China or abroad are going to pick to buy chemicals from this company because Garrett Nussmeier has an NIL contract. Now, maybe for smooth, yeah, well, yes, there you go. There you go. The coldest, the coldest. But you have these big industrial sponsors who just do it. They don't need the player to, it's not like a smoothie or it's not like a apparel. They're just doing it to help LSU out. And there's a clear disparity about how much they're getting paid and what they actually do. So now, under the new agreement, if you do an NIL agreement, you have to send your contract to Postal Weight and Netterville, and they got to see if it's market value. So, in other words, whatever you're doing, it has to be market value. Right. Or what you're doing. It can't be a conduit just to pay a player a bunch of money to not do anything. So you're going to have more of a NFL model in the future. So it's just a matter of it's going to be about player evaluation and how you use your money to pay these players and what portion of it. So it'll be a little different, but Mhm.
So you talked about the whole antitrust thing before, right?
Mhm.
Now, why can't, and I get the whole NIL thing, right? That's the
All
money and this and that. If I could put more rules on that, you do the transfer pool. So the transfer pool to me is, look, this is the NCAA, and these are the NCAA rules. You get one transfer. You came out as an 18-year-old kid, and you're playing for some team, and the coach said you were going to start, and you're not starting. You want to go somewhere else. Year, for 4 years, I just don't. Why can't the NCAA come along and say, look, you get one transfer when you graduate, you play for 4 years, you get another transfer, right, in the transfer portal. But otherwise, you're stuck. And so that way, it keeps players from moving from place to place, and it allows the teams the opportunity to know that at least I've got this player for the next 3 years. And so what antitrust issues are swimming around today? I don't.
All right. It's funny. We're actually going up to LSU tomorrow to have a meeting regarding that and that very issue. And basically, what it is you won't be able to do that unless the players unionize. Like, if you didn't have an NFL players union, to have free agency and the draft would be antitrust. But when you have a union, they bargained out that right so that you can get certain benefits from that. And so with a union, if you have a union and you collectively bargain with your employer, I guess the NCAA will be an employer at some point, then any deal you make isn't subject to review by a court. It's just the interpretation of the agreement would, but not, but
You might have to go to arbitration.
right, right.
Yeah.
But in absence of a union, you have to have the ability to have some type of movement. You can't have an unfair restriction on your movement. And so if you don't have a transfer portal or once a year, like somebody's going to file suit and say that's an antitrust violation. So
I still don't get it because it's a college setting, right? And they're not paying these players to play. It's NIL money, right?
they're paying it. Well, they're paying the players now. Next year with rev share, they will be paying them.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. But if they don't pay them, then they have that opportunity because if they're not an employee of the school, right, and they're playing the sport, and they just happen to be getting NIL money because they're good at what they do, then you can put whatever limits you want on.
Yeah, but you can't put. You could put individually, but you can't have it holistically. That's collusion. You can't have collusion to inhibit movement. That's antitrust. I know.
These are the rules for the NCAA. Why can't we?
That's
We're not employed. You
I,
want to play there next week, you got to sit out.
look. The NCAA ought to hire you because you're making the argument, but that's collusion, and that's the reason why. And the reason that's why until there's a union in college, they're going to have a transfer portal. All right, let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. I can turn it up too. Let's see. Test, test. Is that better? Test, 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 test. Test it. Okay. I just turned it up a little bit.
More aggressive than ever, and your tax problems won't disappear on their own. They're holding your life hostage, wrecking your credit, your peace of mind, and your future. Hi,
Dun 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 dun.
protect your bank account, your wages, and your assets. Don't wait another day. Don't bury your head in the sand. Reclaim your life. Call us at 985-722-10.
Okay, test. Test, 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 test. All right.
Bloody and aggressive action. Hi, I'm Caitlin with Good Tax Resolution. You owe back taxes? The time to act is now. Don't face the IRS alone. At Good Tax Resolution, we know how to protect your assets and your peace of mind. Call Go Tax Resolution at 985-722-1040 or visit gotaxresolution.com. That's GEAUX taxresolution.com.
NFL Sunday's coming. You've got your crew, your couch, your snacks, your slate, and FanDuel is coming in with something extra. This isn't just another NFL Sunday. It's your chance to place that perfect parlay or hit your go-to player prop, and now we're making it even better because this week FanDuel is bringing the bonus. That's right. Right now, all customers get a 50% profit boost on any NFL bet. However you play the game, FanDuel's got your back with something extra in your account because that's what Sunday should feel like. Visit FanDuel.com/Hebert, that's HEBERT, to download the app and get on the action before kickoff. FanDuel Sportsbook is the official partner of WWL Radio.
21 plus and present in Louisiana. Permanent parishes only. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-877-770-7867.
If you have Medicaid and are new to Medicare, you may qualify to enroll in a Humana Medicare Advantage dual eligible special needs plan with a lot more benefits like dental, vision, and hearing, along with helpful support when you need it most. Now is the time to see if you qualify to enroll. It only takes a few minutes to find out if you're eligible. Our licensed sales agents are ready to help you understand your options. So this Medicare planning season, we can help you plan well. Learn more at humanaduals.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. Humana is a dual-eligible special needs HMO SNP plan with a Medicare contract and a contract with the state Medicaid program. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal.
Feel like everything is clouded by doubt? Visit CaliforniaPsychics.com. Our psychics are available to talk 24/7, and we guarantee if it's not life-changing, it's straight. Experience the joy of certainty. California Psychics.
Snakes.
Doug, did you see the question of the
Oh, let's see. Okay, gotcha. Okay, we'll take them now.
Once you want a limited plan, they probably want you to cover the cost of those 20-somethings using all that data. But most people 50 and up like me only use 12 gigs or less. Don't get bamboozled by big wireless. Switch to consumer cellular. Our plan starts at $20, and we use the same powers as the big guys. Join the millions who choose something better, because if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used. Stream WWL shows you love on Audacy, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn apps. Or join us at the Oakland Heart Jewelers Podcast line 504-660-1870.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers. Andrew, which is that your school?
Yes, sir, it is.
Washington State.
Yeah, I came pretty far to come do to come work over here, but that is my alma mater.
You know, I think the signal of WWL used to almost reach Washington State. Washington State. That's how far it went. But yeah, you know, one thing I don't see is a lot of Washington State's flags down here for some reason. You know, sort of don't understand it. But hey, the home of Ryan Leaf, right? Rick Leach. I think he coached at Washington State. Yeah, I got you. All right, let's go. Let's go to phone lines. Let's go to Steve. He's got a question regarding antitrust. Hey, Steve, you on all things legal?
Hey, good morning, guys.
Yeah.
I've been enjoying the conversation here so far. But I think, Doug, I don't know who's got to get on the phone, but you've been, man, you schooled him. I think this guy didn't he kind of slept through antitrust class that they had whatever. But it seems like it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck. It's whether they call them players, whatever, they're employees. So there's, we haven't even mentioned billions of dollars that come in on the TV revenue, really paid for everything. So, if you're going to tell, it's one thing to say, why can't they do this and why can't they make them sit out? It's like, okay, well, if you want to do that, then just say what it is. It's like a plantation. You're going to herd these kids through and limit how they move around, and you're
there you go.
All the teams together. That's polluting and stuff. So my real question is, and maybe the other guy has more knowledge on this. What about the others? We're going to treat them like employees. Well, how about the trainers? How about the cheerleaders? How about the guys, the water boys and stuff? Are they going to get a piece of this action?
They won't be part of the rev share. I'll tell you a couple of things interestingly. No, it's coming. The players will be employees. They're just a lawsuit away. And, we've actually have had discussions with administration on that, saying, hey, it's going to happen. There's no way you can say they're not employees when you do revenue sharing. And one of the things that we're sort of trying to figure out from our perspective, because we have a young man in our law firm who's doing NIL contracts and representing players, is are you going to have an NFL style contract? Are you going to have workers' comp? Are you going to have injury protection? Are you going to have, incentive signing bonuses? There's a lot in the NFL contracts that, as far as an employee is concerned and how you're treated. So all that they haven't wrapped their mind around, and we're trying to wrap our mind around it so that we can tell the players we represent. But it's all in transition, and there's a lot of things that happen, and now they're trying to figure out the unanticipated consequences of what had happened. But they will be employees, and you have situations where like a kid like Greg Brooks, who was a young man who had the brain tumor. And that he's in a lawsuit with LSU over certain issues. But if that happened while under the new paradigm, he would have workers' comp, he would have injury protections, he would have a lot of type of obligations that he would benefit from as a football player who was had a medical condition during his employment. So it's a very interesting issue, and it's always evolving. But I think what antitrust says is in business you can't price fix, you can't have market allocations, you can't have monopolization, you can't have exclusive type deals, you can't restrict movement. And I tease my youngest, who was she graduated from CPA. I said, how would you like to be drafted to go to a undesirable city, because you don't have a choice, and it's just
What they do in medicine, that's what medical school does, right?
they do that. Well, they do that for their Albert, you would know better. They do that for their internships, basically. I'm saying it very rudimentary.
Yeah, but again, those are employees, right? And I think you brought up a great point. What about the guy wearing the dog head running around as a mascot? Does he get paid? How much does he get paid? How about the band? Do they get paid? I mean, all of a sudden, where does it stop, right? I mean, if you want to come play football here, you choose to come play football here. You don't have to do that. You don't have to. It's not like I'm telling you have to go to Washington State and play football, right? You can come to LSU if you want.
But it's saying,
Good enough to make the team,
well, I think what they're saying is if you want to move from LSU to Washington State and play football, and the NCAA says you can't because you're limited. Like they didn't have a transfer portal before. They had no transfer portal and say you can't. That's why they changed the rule, because they saw it coming. But and the court rulings that were underlying that. So look. I'm not agreeing with it or disagreeing with it. My opinion really doesn't matter. I'm just telling you how legally it's where it's going in the future. And I think a lot of the colleges are trying to wrap their mind around how to do this. But it's my understanding that, and I'm going to probably confirm some of this tomorrow, is the rev share contracts that the players sign is going to be very similar to an NFL contract. You're going to have a standard contract, and then the last page is your incentives, a signing bonus, maybe some incentives, certain milestones to make in order to get paid. So it's
you end up with the inmates running the asylum.
yes, no, well, yeah.
Yeah, because here's a person saying, I'm not going to play anymore now.
Okay, so you are that's my whole point. You're saying it's like to be completely controlled, locked down, and treat them like inmates, like they serve the 13th Amendment type of guys. That's not the whole mentality I'm talking about.
Well, that's the NCAA. That was the NCAA's mentality, and that's why they got popped in court. And in fact, I've told the story several times. In 1985, Coach Dale Brown, when was speaking, and he told us that the players are going to realize how much money is made by everyone else, and when they realize that they're going to strike. They are going to strike, and it happened in a different way. But what he said was prophetic, and that was 40 years ago. Now, it's about the money. It's just about the movement that is allowed by without being antitrust. And
I think Nick Saban hit the nail on the head, right? Is that he's like, I can recruit a guy once. I can't recruit you for 4 years. And then I have no control over it. Because this kid's making
I
$100,000 a year, I can't coach it. They, so now all of a sudden, it may probably not the right word, but I don't, you're supposed to listen to your coach. You're supposed to listen
I
to your,
I
and be coached and go do this and do. Otherwise, it is.
well let me give you an example. How many laws that were enacted that actually hurt the workforce than helped the workforce in some ways, and the unintended consequences of it? I mean, you talk about, like if you look at HR departments, they're bloated because if someone says the wrong thing at the water cooler, somebody's getting sued. I'm saying I don't think that's good. But a lot of times when you implement these laws, you have a lot of the unintended consequences, and that's what we're talking about today. And I'm not saying right or wrong. I think if you have to fault one entity, it was the NCAA, because the NCAA did not get ahead of this. And if they would have gotten ahead of it, they could have probably implemented some reasonable, I guess, safety rails. But they didn't. Well, because they didn't, but the NCAA was so arrogant and exerted so much unwarranted, just unthoughtful restrictions on the players. One of the players who filed the lawsuit to get that for the NIL, he was like a construction architect major, and he was going to take a 6-week course in Europe to study architecture. I mean, really study, not one of these courses. So he needed a new computer to take. It was like an AutoCAD program that he needed for the. And so they petitioned the NCAA to allow the school to buy him a computer in order for him to further his studies in Europe. And the NCAA said no, it's a violation. I always tell the story with Dale Brown. Mark Alcorn died, I think, in 1982, 1983. He died of cancer. He's on his team. Dale Brown called the NCAA and said, "Can I take a plane at the university's expense to fly my team to the funeral?" And the NCAA said no. So those were the type of things that the NCAA had unbridled power that they used unwisely, and they just kept exerting it till the courts had enough, and they broke it all open. And so if you have to pin it on anybody, it's the NCAA.
They're the ones that will bring all of the, a lot of it is the university and history and all that sort of thing. But the kids that are playing are the ones that are making it happen. And I don't have a problem with them getting paid somehow. And NIL was a great vehicle for that, right?
Wow.
But the fact that now all of a sudden, some of these kids are making more money than assistant coaches, right? You see it on the sidelines now. Coach will bring a kid to the sideline and start getting up in his face because he's doing something stupid, and the kid just walks off.
No, I agree. That's a different. Well, no.
And again, if you can look, I'm not doing it. You can't get me to do this and make me do that. I'm going to go play in another school next year.
Well, they said that, but
leverage over your coaching staff, who these kids are supposed to listen to.
But what the NFL they said the same thing about NFL and free agency. They said the same thing about Curt Flood in Major League Baseball and free agency. And look, it is going to be a problem. I don't think it's to death now. Now, what you have to do as a coach, you have to change your approach. And that's why Coach Kelly, among the many reasons he was more old school and authoritative. And today's player's different. And you're going to have to figure out how to reach today's player. Now, when you played football, you listened to your coach. You didn't ask why. You just did it. And, I was talking to Jordy Holberg this week. Jordy Holberg was like, when Coach Brown told me to do something, I did it. There's no and ifs, buts, what. I just didn't want him to brown out. But today's player wants buy-in, and they want to know why I need to do this. So you have to use a new communication method to reach them. All right. Well, I would tell you this. Well, I'm going to say, and I'm going to say this. I think the best coach in the nation right now is Mike Elko from Texas A&M. He's got the combination of both. He's got that Bill Parcells mentality. When I listen to him, I listen. But he also has difference. He has a system within Texas A&M where the kids can air out their concerns. I mean, he's got a communication structure that's never been. Not anymore. Not anymore. They'll be evened off. I mean, they'll that next year. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, like 2 years ago, Jimbo had. Jimbo had all that NIL money and he didn't win. So I mean, he had the same amount of NIL money 2 years ago. They were flush. That was 2 years ago. He was flush. That's why he was fired, because they put all his NIL money in, bought all these players, and they couldn't win. So, but anyway, it's an interesting discussion, and we'll see. But let's go to a break. That's a two-lane hubbaloo. I'm not a big. What's it? Hubbaloo. Let's go to a break. Hubbaloo. Yes, I sound like Buddy Dilberto when I say it. All right, let's go to break. Ducks and Sunseri. Oh, that was ULL. I thought it was Tulane. All right, stand corrected. All right. Hubbaloo.
5,000, 50,000, or 500,000. We have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-98.
Hey,
don't lose hope.
You gotta Andrew, want to call Albert and his volume's down on his phone. His Albert's volume is down. No, okay, gotcha. All right.
The reason why it sounded slower is because the way we have things set up, the line that Albert is calling in,
I gotcha.
is the same line.
Gotcha.
So his is probably louder than.
Gotcha.
And I'm their daughter, attorney Katie Sunseri, and we do get the complex unreasonable.
Call Golden Katie at our Metairie office at 504-214-9111. Or you can call me at Hey, tell me what you really want. Educating students since 1921, Delgado Community College offers programs in business, technology, health sciences, and the arts. Our career-focused degrees and certificates are affordable, flexible, and transferable. Whether you're starting
I got you, volume.
or want to change your career, Delgado has something for you. Step closer to being unstoppable at Delgado Community College. Visit dcc.edu to learn more today.
Boys look great. Magazine Street is such a fun
Right.
spot. Can you tell her bathroom? Are you alright? If she's having stomach issues after eating, diarrhea, gas and bloating, she's really small. Sound familiar? The stomach issues may actually be a pancreas issue called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. Creon pancrealypase may help manage EPI. Creon is a prescription medicine used to treat people who can't digest food normally because their pancreas doesn't make enough enzymes.
Creon may increase your chance of fighting old enough to be aware of how it's going. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockages, swelling, or thickening of your body wall. If you are allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Tell your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and almost prescribed. Do not chew capsules to assist health optimization. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas within the sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon. Call 800-623-9110. Visit creoninfo.com to learn more. That's creoninfo.com.
I'm asking my doctor about EPI and if Creon could help.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. It's Chuck McDowell. Definitely not a firm. This is Chuck.
Tom said, so, it's not your fault. You were most likely coached and ready, and it was a great financial investment. And the deal was available today only. If this happens to you, contact your resort or Wesley Financial Group for help today.
Call Wesley now for your free exit information kit. 800-242-3131. 800-242-3131. If you're still waiting for a sign, here's another one. At California Sidekicks, we reject 98% of the sidekicks who apply to work for us. So we only connect you with the best. That's how we can guarantee if your reading isn't life-changing, it's free. Now, new customers receive 20 minutes for just $20. If that's not a sign, I don't know what is. Dramatic sound effect incoming. Experience the joy of surgery at CaliforniaPsychics.com. It's all things legal on WWL and streaming live on the Audacy, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio apps. To consult with Doug Sunseri or Albert Nicaud, call their office at 504-837-1304 or call now on the Oakwood Heart Jewelers Talk and Text line 504-260-1870.
Hey, we're back. I stand corrected. When we went out on the last break, that was the ULL fight song. This is the Tulane fight song. Had a rough outing against USTA. But LSU fans who want Coach Summerall to coach, that was actually something they probably out of the playoffs. If he was in the playoffs, it would have been harder. It would have been more difficult to lure him over. That's the way the LSU fans. But we want Tulane to make the playoffs, and what a great coach. Now, I will say this before we go on to something else. I think two candidates, viable candidates for LSU, are within 80 miles of here. It's either Frank Wilson, if he runs the table, or they elevate the level of play. I think he would be a good choice. It would be a gutsy choice, but I think he would be. I think he's got that vibe to be a head coach in today's NIL, or John Summerall. I know the Tulane people. I'm sorry to say this. I think he's going to be coaching. He's going to be coaching us. He's going to be coaching us, or we're going to be coaching against him. And I'd rather have him on our side.
I'm not, but I've watched Tulane just about every week, right? They have shot themselves in the foot. They jumped offside. They had players lined up offside. Their defensive backfield it was not like they were in a man coverage and they were getting beat with a perfect pass. They were in zone coverage and they were people wide open. People were not in the right places. There were so many games when that team could have put people away and just really, done well. And it's got to come down to coaching in week 8, right? It's got to be like, hey, look, at this point, you can't make so many stupid mistakes. Like, first of all, in the last UTSA game, why do you go to 2 on the first play, first touchdown? Drive down the field, go to 2 and miss it. It sucks all the momentum out of your team right away. Mm-hmm. And then, if they have a blocked field goal, somebody jumps offside. All of these stupid plays, that's what coaches do, right? Good coaches work their players. They had this first and goal from the 2. One of their players jumped in, one of the offensive lines jumped false start. Right now, first and goal from the 7. The cadence shouldn't change at the goal line, right? If you get them to jump offside, you're going to get the yard out of it at 2 yards, at the 2-yard line. If you jump offside, you now at the 7. So just call a play and run it. Some of those mistakes and things that I'm like, I don't know. I'm not,
so
I started out being a fan, but watching the games this year, I'm like, I don't think he's ready.
Yeah, right. All right, we'll see. I would be okay with it. And Albert doesn't get Albert's votes, and you know what our votes are worth. So it's worth two lawyers on a Sunday morning talking about it. That's about it. That's about it's worth that. But we're talking a little bit about employment contracts. We'll take it in. In Louisiana is a right to work state, meaning you can be fired for any non-discriminatory reason in absence of a written contract for a definitive period of time. And it's very, and a lot of people, we get a lot of calls during the week just from saying, hey, I got fired from my job. It wasn't fair. And I want to sue. And, how do you define unfair? Well, I was performing better than my counterparts, but they still fired me. And, those are usually quick conversations because in Louisiana, you can be fired for a bad reason as long as it's not based on age, national origin, religion, gender, sexual, well, genders. But if it's a not or disability that under the ADA, but if it's not for that, chances are you don't have a claim. Now there are certain exceptions, maybe a whistleblower or something in that range, but it's.
What you might have is an unemployment claim.
Yes, you're right.
Not fired for cause. But if you're fired for cause because you missed some work and you're late every day and it's documented, and you go file for unemployment, the unemployment, hearing officer should deny your claim because the company could probably prove that it was for cause. But if it was for no cause, hey, look, they just fired me, they had a reduction in force, they hired somebody else for this position and let me go, whatever, you can go get unemployment, but there's no real lawsuit for wrongful termination.
Right. So, it's just, you have to have a written contract or contract for a specific period of time in order to enforce that contract. And also, too, if you do have a contract, they usually have a provision about cause, whether you're fired with cause or without cause. And a lot of times, just like what Coach Kelly's dealing with, if you do have a written contract, you terminated, of course, the teams will, or will try to fit it under the with cause to try to mitigate a buyout on the remainder of the contract. But the problem is, how do you define with cause? And that's the issue. Is that it's usually defined within a contract. But like if it's a violation of company policy and you park in a handicap zone in their parking lot, is that cause or not cause? So you have those type of right. So look, but let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. Be right back after this brief timeout. Who was that, Andrew? Let's do a couple next hour, like USC, Notre Dame, Michigan, Texas. Some of the big ones, man. Let me know how much we're going to have when you do your math. Okay, good. Okay, gotcha.
This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it could end your debt nightmare and save you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. For free information and to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, simply go online and visit DRA.com or call 800-45.
I'm going to play my dad's school song.
All right.
Again, that's 800-455-9311.
NFL Sunday's coming. You've got your crew, your couch, your snacks, your slate, and FanDuel is coming in with something extra. This isn't just another NFL Sunday. It's your chance to place that perfect parlay or hit your go-to player prop, and now we're making it even better. Because this week, FanDuel is bringing the bonus. That's right. Right now, all customers get a 50% profit boost on any NFL bet. However you play the game, FanDuel's got your back with something extra in your account. Because that's what Sundays should feel like. Visit FanDuel.com/Hebert, that's HEBERT, To download the app and get on the action before kickoff. FanDuel Sportsbook is the official partner of WWL Radio.
21 plus is present in Louisiana. Permanent parishes only. Opt-in required. Bonus issue that's non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-877-770-7867. Experience luxury redefined at the all-new Genesis of New Orleans. Now open. With a large selection of new Genesis models, you'll find the one that fits your style and needs. Enjoy complimentary maintenance for 3 years or 36,000 miles, plus a favorable pickup and delivery. From sales to service, everything is designed around your comfort and convenience. Stop by and say hi at Genesis of New Orleans on Power Boulevard at the corner of Veterans. Luxury evolved.
Do you want to buy your way to truly make a difference? Arcadian Ambulance and the National DMS Academy are looking for dedicated people just like you. Working as a medic will unlock a rewarding career. Learn more at becomeamedic.com/WWL.
Get 6 months of Black Business Owners break plus a price lock. Some restrictions apply.
Yeah, my dad passed away at the age of 63, out of nowhere. Still, it's hard, obviously. My family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance. For my wife. The best place to get life insurance is ethos.com. It's a good treatment, and there's no medical exam and no blood test. You help them. Get life insurance in 10 minutes to your family protection. Ethos, ETHOS, ethos.com/life.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Fortel. Audience Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I've actually not been better than my whole $5,000 hearing aid.
Do not believe how a hearing aid might change. Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audiehearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com. Back to attorneys Albert Nicaud and Sunseri on WWL. Stream all things legal and our Talk Shooting podcasts on Audacy, TuneIn, and now on the iHeartRadio app. Or connect now on the Oakland Heart Jewelers talking text line 504-260-1870.
Hey, we're back. I think that's the Southeastern fight song. You know, real quick, we're talking about sort of mixing legal and sports, but when we're talking about clause, I was looking at an old contract from the early 90s on a coach's contract we had, and it stated that you could be terminated for cause for violation of school policy. Now, think about, I'm going to say hypothetically, if you're a football coach and you're 2-8, you got 4 years left in the contract, and you have a provision that says you could be terminated for cause for violation of school policy. What do you think they're going to start doing? Digging to see if you made a long distance call on, school time, or you parked in a wrong parking spot, or, so, that was things you negotiate.
Obviously, those provisions, when you want to do a pet call like that, you add the word,
Substantive. With a breach, saying that you have an opportunity to remedy the breach and notice, and then put in notice that you violated school policy. But taking it back to Brian Kelly, and I'm not going to get into specifics because a lot of it's conjecture, even though it may be true. I don't want to repeat it over the air. But I will say this: there's a provision in there where it's like it's a clause that has to do with your behavior on and off the field, and that could possibly be a consideration in trying to knock down that $54 million, and then there's also a duty to mitigate, which is very interesting, is that you have a duty to any subsequent employment reduces your buyout. But the question would be, Albert, do you have a duty to seek employment? In other words, and if you get a job, or if you get a job, you might get paid less because you know that LSU is going to pay the rest of it. So you have a duty to collect market value. So those are interesting. Yeah. So. So that's interesting. Interesting legal questions there. Okay, finish hour number one, all things legal. Going to national news, local news. We'll be back in about 7 minutes on all things legal. Stay tuned for hour number two.
I'm Linda Kennedy. New CBS News poll finds President Trump's deportation program is dividing Americans mostly along party lines. 52% of Americans approve of it, while 48% disapprove. It has consistent, strong backing from Republicans and MAGA Republicans in particular, but less so among others. Jennifer DePinto, a deputy director of surveys at CBS, also looked at rising worries about the government shutdown and its impact on the economy. Concerns about the government shutdown come as Americans continue to rate the economy negatively as they have for years. Most remain opposed to tariffs and there's concern that AI will take away jobs. But most of all, prices are still seen as rising. 62% say prices of the things they buy are going up, and few expect prices to come down in the next few months. The government shutdown is now stretched into its 33rd day. The Senate remains deadlocked, mostly over expiring healthcare tax subsidies that help millions of Americans pay for their health insurance under the Affordable Care Act. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says air traffic controllers are working without pay during the shutdown. Many are calling in sick. Some are working second jobs in order to support their families. On CBS's Face the Nation, Secretary Duffy was asked if this is affecting air safety.
We work overtime to make sure the system is safe, and we will slow traffic down. You'll see delays. We'll have flights canceled to make sure the system is safe.
At last check, FlightAware was tracking a jump in flight delays, with total delays within, into, or out of the U.S. at more than 1,100 so far today. Some of the longest delays, 43 minutes in Nashville, nearly 2 hours in Newark. Millions of Americans are seeing a delay in food stamp benefits, or SNAP, during this government shutdown. Austin Frucci, who owns the Hidden Coffee Bar in Roseville, California, is handing out free coffee and pastries to help.
My wife and I, we personally have experience being on SNAP benefits in the past, and I grew up in a household that I had to get free hot lunch as a kid, in a family like that, and so when that happened, we knew we wanted to help.
It's New York City Marathon Day. CBS News New York's Hannah Cleaver is following.
The majority of runners are expected to finish between 3:30 and 6:30 p.m. The massive event typically draws 2 million spectators along the route to cheer runners on.
Some mighty happy Dodgers fans today. The Dodgers beat the Toronto Blue Jays last night, Game 7 of the World Series. This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Let me tell you about this new pretzel cheddar club. Hey, I'm Carlos, and I'm looking pizza at the Chick-fil-A pretzel cheddar club. It's a tasty pizza with a pretzel bun. It takes it to a whole nother level. It goes perfect with the chicken, cheddar cheese, and the bacon. Man, you know how much you love bacon. And I love the different varieties. Grilled, spicy, original, it's just nice and excited for all.
Maybe the pretzel cheddar club is cherry berry and spice for a long time on Chick-fil-A app. Look at space for the pretzel.
There's nothing like when you get that car from eBay and it just fits. Yeah, the first time. So you can do less of this and get right back to more of this. At eBay, you'll find all the parts you need, guaranteed to fit, at prices you'll love. Sounds good, doesn't it? eBay. Things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. WWL First News, Annie and Ozan on your official weather station, WWL.
Happy Sunday. We'll have some clouds lingering early today, but we'll have lots of sunshine in the afternoon. It'll be breezy and cool today with temperatures hitting 70 degrees in the afternoon. It'll get chilly tonight as temperatures fall to about 40 degrees on the North Shore, 50 degrees on the South Shore by tomorrow morning.
And when you also get involved, just to let Patricia have a full look at the forecast coming up in just a little bit. Right now, the Orleans police are investigating the death of a man whose body was found in Lake Pontchartrain. The body was discovered around 12:30 Saturday afternoon
authorities in Lake Catalina. U.S. police now working the case as an unclassified tip. Louisiana residents who rely on food stamps to put food on their tables will get their benefits. WWL TV's Western News reports SNAP benefits will be distributed in increments.
The state will cover SNAP benefits for the month of November for the elderly, disabled, and children. But unlike the USDA, the Louisiana Department of Health will distribute the benefits in 4 separate payments. Congressman Troy Carter says the federal government shutdown should have never interfered with SNAP benefits.
2 judges ordered President Trump to immediately release those federal dollars so no one would encounter any disruption on their SNAP benefits. As far as I know, that should have happened immediately.
On social media, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise thanked President Trump in response to the president, stating that 2 courts have issued conflicting opinions in regard to how his administration can begin covering SNAP benefits amid the federal government shutdown.
Quick reminder, daylight savings time ended overnight, standard time is moved. Dot, set the clock back this morning. Time for WWL Sports, here's Charlie Law.
This WWL Sports Update is brought to you by People's Health. Week 9 of the 2025 NFL season rolls on today, and the Saints are out west for a major test against the 5-2 Los Angeles Rams. The Black and Gold announced that this game will be rookie quarterback Tyler Shuck's first start at the NFL level. Scott Shanley, a former Saints Super Bowl winning linebacker, said it's the perfect time to throw Shuck out there.
You need to know. You need to get bench half the season, you need to get piled up season, and there's got to be some attention on the running game, there's got to be some play action pass so that we can get Shaheed and a lie behind the secondary. I think that's how you really got Tyler State signing already for the and that's well for him. Because he's throwing the defense pool, and he said, hey, let's see how you react. You get the really good defense, and we're going to give you a couple games. Rams, Panthers, and then we're going to have a bye week to figure out what you do well, what you don't do well.
Shanley added that he's interested to see how he play changes with Shuck at QB1. Audacy under Mark Schler, the host of the Stick and Truth podcast, called it baptism by fire for Shuck, and he explained where the Rams rank among the best teams in the NFC.
They play everybody, whether it's Green Bay, whether it's Detroit, they're right there. Like, I don't think there's any team that has set themselves apart in the NFC. I think there are 3 teams to me that are really good. The Rams are right there.
All right, Doug, you
Okay.
Today at 3 o'clock, and the countdown to kickoff featured in Dwight May.
Okay. Oh, yeah, Dwight.
Basketball, the Pelicans wrap up their 3-game road trip with a test at OKC against the defending champion Thunder. Kickoff is today at 2:30 p.m. on the Big 870 WWL. Charlie Ball, WWL Sports.
Now, the Surf Pro Cleanup, Restoration, and Construction forecast on
It's a
WWL.
really nice Sunday. We'll have decreasing clouds throughout the day. It's going to be breezy and cool with temperatures near 70 degrees in the afternoon. Tonight will be very chilly, though, and it will be cold tomorrow morning. Temperatures will bottom out around 40 degrees on the North Shore, 50 degrees on the South Shore by tomorrow morning. Tomorrow's going to be a cool, refreshing day. Sunny skies, low humidity, temperatures in the upper 60s tomorrow afternoon. The rest of the work week will be warmer, but still comfortable. Temperatures will be in the 70s the rest of the week. From WWL Louisiana, I'm meteorologist Alexis Frischler.
And I'm Ian Ozan. WWL First News. Have a wonderful Sunday.
From WWL, the news, talk, sports powerhouse of the Gulf South. It's all things legal with Sunseri and Albert Nicaud. Underwritten by Nicaud, Simpson Law Firm and the Sunseri Law Firm. Join us on the Oakland Heart Jewelers Talk and Text line 504-260-1870 or connect anytime, anywhere on the Audacy app. Now, live from our Gulf Coast Bank and Trust Company studios, the bank that cares about you. Here's Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri.
Hey, we're back for hour number 2. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We're going to be off next week because the Saints are playing at 12 o'clock. But we'll be back on November 16th and November 23rd, which is, I think that's the weekend before Thanksgiving. And we'll be back for those because the Saints are off or playing at 3 o'clock. So we're off next week. We'll be on in 2 weeks. And Albert, before we get to Dwight in Mandeville, I think Dwight was talking about, well, first of all, Tyler Shuck gets the starting nod, which would be big news any other week but last week. and so that was sort of got drowned out. I think the sample size for Spencer Rattler has been big enough, and I think they know what they have, and I think they know what they don't have in Spencer Rattler. So they're going to.
Yeah, but you know what? Belichick's not going to make any of the receivers taller.
I got you.
It's not going to make any, it's not going to make any of the offensive linemen block better. Right? I mean, it's going to be the same old thing. When the WWL, I forget who it was, interviewed Drew Brees, and the question kept coming up: why is it that we can't convert touchdowns in the red zone? And why do we just keep getting good ones? And he said he had a lot of nice things to say. Well, things get tighter and this and that. But then he finally told the truth about I had weapons in the end zone. I had Marcus Colton. Right? I had
Jimmy Graham.
I knew I could throw the ball one ridiculous spot, and only they would catch it. We don't have that. So, and then Trevor Penny had 2 holding penalties in one series, when Spencer Rattler, he's got his problems. I'm not talking about Spencer Rattler. I'm not saying he's the greatest. But, when you're the quarterback, you get all the balls. Watch, Belichick can get in it. It could be the same old thing.
Same. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
So it's and then all of a sudden, we need to search for a new quarterback. No, you're living on borrowed money. You got no salary cap. You got, it's just, you got to get the team fit. And,
Right. Yeah. Well, I think Spencer Rattler is probably. I think they've seen what they need to see, and I don't know that he's a future. He's not their future. No, we don't. He's not their future, right? I don't think they saw enough to think he's the future. He could be a good backup and a fill-in guy, but I don't think you're going to not draft a quarterback because of Spencer Rattler. All right, well, we got Dwight on the phone. Dwight was indicating that he played with a quarterback who was fantastic running, but if it was 3rd and 27, there was no shot that they would ever be able to make a first down because of the quarterback's lack of accuracy, maybe in passing. But I'll ask Dwight himself, the former Oregon Duck. All right, Dwight. Nice to hear from you. Tell me about this. If it was 3rd and long, were y'all confident that your quarterback could make the throw for a first down at St. Paul? How many followers do you have? How many likes do you have, Dwight? Oh, there you go. Yeah. We're doing good, Dwight. How about you? Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Well, yes, the duck. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he ends up and our guest show. He got two running backs. He ends up fifth on the guest show. He got three freshmen in front of him. Yeah, he left out there. Red shirt was because Dan Lannon was going to say, look, we want you. I'm sure you got a nice good bag. But you going to have to compete for this position. Dan has been very good at that. So I think that the NIL is going to force coaches to be, they have to really coach. I was going to comment about the Kendall gun the challenge. But I feel like when I was in school, just the tip of that realm. Then they didn't have no.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
There needed to be some change. I don't disagree, but at this point, think about it. Like going to coach a team, right? And you're an assistant coach, and you got 5 kids in your position that are making more money than you. And if you're too hard on them, you're working too hard, you get up in their face. I'm leaving. I'm going to go to another school because somebody else wants me and I might make more money. Right? What do you do? How do you have control? You got to baby them and placate them. And it's just a hard situation for the coaching staff. You know? My point of it is that it's going to force the coach. Like I think Dan is going to force the coach because he was coming in where he's saying about tough conversations. So he knows coming in that stuff ain't going to work. And he's got to be honest with you. And so imagine you see now about Brady years and running back. It's in the good. So we got 2 freshmen. I'm got to pay that.
Yeah.
And he's a great running back. And so he read this guy a week ago. He's on red shirt. And I'd be surprised if you got a program. And you know he could go anywhere in the country and get a nice little bag. But I think there's no 4 kids coaches to really coach.
Good. Yeah.
And that's going to make your system better because now you want to handle kids in a way that you'll be honest with at the same time. It is what it is. So,
Well, Dwight, let me ask you this, because you played back in the 80s and you know the players today. And how do you coach a kid today differently than you did when you played? What does the coach, what would be important to the player now where they would get buy-in and perform, because, part of coaching is pulling something out of a player he didn't know he had. And just more than 100%, just making him better than he ever thought he could be. How do you approach a kid today, as opposed to when you played, to get that out of a player?
I think today it's kind of like I use the example of the way I raised my kids. The way I was raised, my dad had a big stick, an iron hand, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I got 2 wonderful boys, all step forward, whatever. And my friends always complimented about how well it turned out. And then and that conversation with man, kids today, and our parents raised us the same way. I said, man, I got way more than my kids got. So I talk to my kids more than I get to, way more than
Yeah.
So that's the question there is that, first of all, when you recruit a kid, you gotta be a good fit. Yeah, I don't care how good how high you jump, how fast you run about. You gotta be a good fit to your system, to your culture, to your values. That's what Dan is really great at.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting somebody that's going to disrupt this culture or and that's when another kid he brought in that problem elsewhere. But when they got the origin, you got to see it now fair. He's a mom guy. He said that he was at Alabama. He's been to other schools. And he's doing phenomenal because Dan was able to connect with him and let him know our values or our culture or whatever. And he's got it buy-in. So the coach wants to be
That's a gift, but you're factoring in this money now, right? All of a sudden, you're not there yet. Like you weren't there yet, right? And if your dream was to play in the NFL, I would do whatever this coach tells me because I want to stay on the field. I want to be, I want to be on TV every week, right? And so if I'm benched, I better listen to him. Now it's like, I use the example of Perkins, right? It's like, he's like, oh, I'm not going to play the rest of the season. I'll go play somewhere else next year and we'll probably make more money, right? So that's what these coaches have to deal with now. And this money you have. Right now, all of a sudden, I made it already. And I always say this, the biggest obstacle to your next success is your last success, right? I got my money now, right? I'm sure I want to play in the NFL and I want to play on Sundays, but if you sit me down, I'm going somewhere else.
But I think Dwight was saying that's culture. And yeah, Dwight, we're going to let you close it up. That's culture. But let you have the last word on this.
And guys, NIL thing is not new. I always compare that to marijuana. Marijuana, they just smoke marijuana forever. Now it's legal, so everybody smokes. They put it in gummies and everything. But this NIL thing is going on forever. Everybody there, NIL was going on. So yeah. In fact, I feel like I started the NIL at Oregon because
there you go.
And I said, because when I went to Oregon, I had success as a freshman or whatever, and there was not alumni, there was the students that taught me out, that kind of gave me opportunities to do it, give me jobs, to help me in my field or whatever. Which kind of was like an NIL deal or whatever. So the NIL can on be gone forever. I got there when I came home. I was in the LSU, and we kept comparing the NIL deal. I got a motorcycle. He got it. You got
Cool.
Rams and tacos.
But there you go. They. Well, in honor, Dwight, in honor of Oregon, as we leave this segment, I think we got the USC fight song on. Is that okay? You're right. Yeah, I think you're right. I agree with you. Well, right. He's like, well, what you said is, and that's what I was saying about Elko, is about communication within the building and communication within the culture. And that's what's different. And that's what Kelly lacked. He didn't have that type of communication structure. And so, and the players felt disconnected. But. All right, thanks. Great. Call back soon, Dwight. Good hearing from you. Let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, you Weekend Warriors. We'll be back.
Wednesdays on WWL. Check in with Bobby Hebert and Drew Brees, 4:30 every Wednesday, as they break down the last Saints game and preview the next matchup. Don't miss QB to QB, the ultimate Saints conversation, with the first quarterback to take the black and gold to the playoffs, and the NFL legend who led the Saints to a Super Bowl win. Drew Brees and Bobby Hebert, Wednesdays at 4:30 on WWL.
The IRS is more aggressive than ever, and your tax problems won't disappear on their own. They're holding your life hostage, wrecking your credit, your peace of mind, and your future. Hi, I'm Danielle with Go Tax Resolution. We specialize in resolving delinquent tax issues and will help protect your bank accounts, your wages, and your assets. Don't wait another day. Don't bury your head in the sand. Regain your life. Call us at 985-722-1040 or visit us at gotaxresolution.com. That's GEAUX. taxresolutions.com.
The IRS is ramping up collections, and that means more wage garnishment, bank levies, and aggressive action. Hi, I'm Caitlin with Good Tax Resolution. If you owe back taxes, the time to act is now. Don't leave the IRS alone. At Good Tax Resolution,
is Monroe still on?
How to protect your assets and your peace of mind.
Andrew.
Call Good Tax Resolution at 95722-1040 or visit gotaxresolution.com. That's GEAUX taxresolution.com.
And my son, dad passed away at the age of 63, got a million. So, obviously, and his brother, but this is why I have life. No medical exam goes well. Get life insurance and then
How did a CEO consumer side? Everyone who I think wireless wants you on a limited plan, they probably
want you to cover the cost of those 20 using all that data. But most people who clean up like me only use 12 gigs or less. Don't get fancy with your wireless. Switch to consumer cellular. Our plan starts at just $20, and we use the same hours as the big guys. Join the millions who choose something better, because if you're not using all that data, you're probably being used.
Hey, it's Matt McKenna with exciting news. Our friends at the Pleasant Builders have been named by Pool and Spa News as one of the top 15 pool builders in America for 2025. Even more so, they came in on the list.
Andrews, Monroe still on?
That's not in Baton Rouge, that's not in Louisiana. That's 26 in America. So if you want a quality pool with great customer service, you want the best. You Pleasant Builders.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, calls.
You got another caller?
Yeah, Monroe, right?
Yeah, Monroe.
Yeah.
The IRS. IRS programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS costs. Over 1,500
Yeah, he played in Oregon in the late 70s, early 80s. His brother is a Hall of Fame linebacker from Southern. His name's Isaiah Robinson. Mm-hmm. He played for the LA Rams. Who is this? Michigan next. Do Michigan. Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. Let's go to phone lines. Let's go to our good friend Monroe and Gentili. Hey, Monroe, you and all things legal, man. What's happening?
Yeah, good morning. You know I'm one of your frequent listeners.
Man.
Every morning before I go to church.
Amen.
I'm in the church right now, and I always listen to you all right before I go to church. So,
you know, we got a lot of our listeners are sanctified because they listen to us going to church. So we'll see y'all all in heaven in about 60 or 70 years. So.
So my question is, can you all explain the difference between a wheel, when someone has a wheel and a truck, and out of the two, which one would you all recommend?
All right, Albert, I'll let you take that.
That's a pretty loaded question. So both of them are somewhat similar in that, there are many different types of trust, right? There's trust that's something called a testamentary trust, where you place the trust inside of a will, and upon your death, this trust then goes into effect and manages your estate and affairs after your death. The vast majority of people only need a will. They don't need to spend all this money on trust. Look, I could spend, there's whole classes on trust, right? At one law school. So if you simplify it, a will basically says, listen, this is who I want to leave my property to. This is who I want to handle my estate, to be the executor of the estate upon my death. I want to give these specific requests, various wishes that the person making the will is have. Like I said, the vast majority of people, that's all you need. It's usually a very inexpensive process. People talk about, I want to avoid probate. Probate has become a very inexpensive process. Unless there's fighting over the estate among the heirs, then it can get expensive. one needs to handle those assets and make decisions for a company or run a bunch of real estate or do things to where the administration of the estate. And, the probate process is not necessarily expensive because as an independent executive or executive, you can act pretty much like the decedent in handling things. So that shouldn't be a concern when you're making a determination whether you want any will or trust. There are many reasons to have a trust. Primarily, if you have a special needs child at whatever age, you might want to have a supplemental needs trust drawn up to protect their Medicaid eligibility, because if they have too much of assets, they'll get bumped off of Medicaid, and so not have those medical benefits and other benefits, monthly income. So there is a way to do a supplemental needs trust to kind of supplement those benefits without having them lose those benefits. If you have a child who's got an addiction, whether it's alcohol or drugs or gambling, or or if you're going to leave them
or spending or
you might want to put that in trust where they have income for the rest of their lives, and you want to protect them even as an adult. Irrevocable trust means you can revoke a trust, and you can revoke a trust, or you can't revoke it. And if you can revoke a trust, not a ton of reasons for me. I just was wanting to do that. Asset protection, possibly. But irrevocable trust will certainly separate your assets from you if you can't revoke it. But the problem is, you can't revoke it. That's conviction, right? So he got stuck in all that. So, again, for your typical spouse in a house, some assets, some bank accounts, maybe a 401k, or right side of the will, those things, the will is more than. So basically, for your normal, everyday working person, husband, wife, children. I mean, you may have $100 grand or $200 grand in the bank or whatever. That's a good deal just to have a regular wheel.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I
tell you that another thing I strongly recommend, sometimes more so than a will, of course I would recommend those, but a power of attorney. With all of the privacy issues, the HIPAA, and all of those things now, it's really difficult sometimes for a spouse to get that information from the insurance company or from the IRS or whatever in the event that one of their spouse, loses their capacity to handle their affairs. So you want to make sure that your spouse or whoever you trust has a power of attorney, a durable power of attorney to use. So if you get to a point where you lose your capacity to handle your affairs, that person can just step right in without a court proceedings to have you interdicted or basically court ordered to be under someone's care. So that's something I certainly really recommend. And those are all pretty inexpensive things to cover. Okay, so the last major, I guess, real important question, also for your listeners as well. What if you're or the mother or whatever, you die and you don't have any of those things in place, a trust nor will, what then happens? And you have children. So then, if you do or don't have children, you do. You do have children, yeah. So the law, Louisiana law is actually pretty good about that. It's called an intestate procedure, which means without a will. And if you go through intestate, and there are various rules as to who gets what, right? Obviously, if you have children, your children share equally in your estate. So let's say if you have a wife and you die, your children become what is called the naked owner of that property, subject to a use of trust in favor of your wife. Use of trust means that she gets to use it and she gets the civil fruit, meaning if there's any income, so if there's an investment account, right? And the investment account earns income, not as complicated as it sounds, and it's a pretty good idea. The framers way back when, in the civil code, wills were for wealthy people, right? They wanted to make sure that the money stayed in the family, and so, and so what they did with the use of trusting is they, for the, let's say, dad has this property, he leaves it to his kids, and his half, and they want to make sure that mom, instead of leaving it just to mom can then spend it all and the kids get nothing. Or mom can hook up with the Chippendale dancer and, all of a sudden go off and run away and that person, soaking mom for all of her money, right? So this way the children actually have ownership of it. The mom gets the income from it, the right to use it. Okay. So basically, at the end of the day, a wheel is a little cheaper than a truck, a little bit more.
It's yeah. I always say you don't need a trust unless there's a specific purpose that you want to accomplish that can't be accomplished by a will. That's probably all right. All right, go Saints. That's it. Oh man, and 14.5 points that we're getting. Albert, I want to commend you because when you were doing this, talking about the estates, and you were talking, we typically say that the man, if the wife had died, the man would go after the young girl and get married, and because maybe for whatever reason. But you were being very you also brought in the fact that women could go after Chippendales if their husband passed, right? So you playing it even, it happens both ways, and there you go. No, you're talking about that. We're joking about it, but it's true. There is more cases of financial exploitation of the elderly than there is child support now. I mean, child abuse now, statistically. And the reason why is because the baby boomers are getting to age in their 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. And that I will say this, one of the things about what I've been told about getting older, especially when you're in the 80s and 90s, is your community or your friend group is gone, and you're alone. A lot of times, you don't have peers because they're not around anymore. And what happens is, you're maybe a little more subject to being influenced to do things you wouldn't normally do if you were younger because of that loneliness or that isolation or that, and that you're maybe more open to being taken advantage of. And that's happening more and more. And I think, maybe not this show, but it would be an interesting conversation to talk about how do you deal with these wills that are done. You got a husband who his wife's died. He's in his 90s and they have 5 kids. And a couple of weeks before he dies, he signs a will that gives all his estate to one of the kids and excludes the other 4. And yeah. And and I'll also too, and I'll go back to maybe the more like you might have the husband who mom and dad have been married for 45, 50 years, wife dies, husband meets up with maybe a younger lady who all of a sudden it was always the intent to give that estate to the 4 kids, and maybe it gets rediverted and under certain circumstances. How do you deal with that? And I mean, those are some difficult questions, but what happens is as you get older, I tell people when we're doing their estates, let's do usufructs because at least half of your estate can't be redirected. But I also say this, I'll say, well, what about remarriage? And they'll say, oh, this will never happen. This will never happen. I'm saying you may think that in your 60s and 70s, but life changes in your, in your 80s and 90s. 70, yeah. Yeah.
Raising their kids, or maybe even living out of state, and so those sort of things do happen. And like I said, we see it a lot.
Yeah.
We see it a lot.
All right.
And again, to talk about, previous callers' concerns, yeah, that's what COVID gets expensive, but everybody's fighting over everything. So I agree with you. You try to do what you can to limit or exclude any kind of fighting.
Yeah. And at the break, you're going to have to tell me about the elderly ladies you had who went after Chippendales and gave their estate to Chippendales instead of their kids. All right, let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief time out. Now that's
Tax professionals will work tirelessly to get you the best deal possible with the IRS. Every day, penalties and interest keep piling up, so don't wait. Call off them now for a free consultation.
Call 800-906-1788. 800-906-1788. 800-906-1788. Optional estimate. Don't forget the possible details. Visit OptimalEquity.com. Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. There's an affordable way for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2045 by Forbes Health. Audience Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest price. Starting with $98 a pair. Not believe how much hearing aid was. Join over 1 million happy customers by going to AudienceHearing.com. That's AudienChearing.com. Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/radio. That's ethos.com/radio. And streaming live on the Audacy, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio apps. Installing dummies for your home radio. Call our office at 504-837-1304. Or connect now on the Oakwood Heart Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. Andrew queued up the Texas fight song for us. A little Arch Manning. He had a good game yesterday. He's starting to progress to his expectations. So congratulations, Arch. Now, Arch's grandfather is Dr. Robert Heidensfelter. No, Charles Heidensfelter. Charles, who is your client, Harold's brother. And when I look at Arch, he looks more Heidensfelter than he does Manning. Do you agree with that? Can you see that? I think he looks more Heidensfelter to me. So, yes. So, Doug, I said Robert. Doug, it's Charles. So, yeah, there you go. So, sorry, I mixed you up with your brother again. So, don't, Doc, give me a break here. Harold's the best. I will say this about Harold. Harold taught me more about football than any man on the face of the earth. So maybe that also. He used to, well, I shouldn't tell these stories. I don't want to get him in trouble. But he did. Okay, they had a newsstand on Veterans Boulevard, and it was 3 blocks from my house. I lived across the street from Harold. And he used to give me 50 cents if I'd go walk 3 blocks, get the Sports Mirror, which had all the sheets for all the football games, and a horse racing forum, because you couldn't get that information off your phone. So you had to, that's the only way you had to get it. And so I used to make 50 cents on Saturday mornings walking 3 blocks to pick it up for him. So thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Joe. But he did know football. He did know football. In fact, we ought to have him call in and give us his picks, because if you listen to him, you'll probably do pretty well. But so, in fact, would you take the Saints in 14.5, or would you give it up? That's a tough one.
I got the game I wouldn't bet. First of all, I never would bet anyway, but I would never bet the Saints. It's like you bet in LSU.
Yeah, right. It's your homer. That's right. Yeah. Quarterback. Yeah.
How much has he been running with the ones versus twos? You just too many X factors.
Gotcha. Good. But so there you go. Also, we got a couple of minutes. We were talking a little bit about wills, and I know you had said this maybe in your 3 or 4 minutes. A lot of times some outfits might say do a trust because you could avoid probate, but probate's really not a big deal with an independent administrator who would be the succession representative. It makes it go very smoothly when it comes to, as opposed to other states and other procedures. In Louisiana, I think it's basically independent administrator, you can in 2 minutes you could liquidate the estate without court approval. You sort of just able to run with it, and it's not really a big deal.
You can liquidate it, and if everybody gets an equal portion, you can split up the money. Everybody gets an equal portion, and it's over. If somebody wants to buy the house, buy the others out of the house with the cash. I mean, it's not a big deal. The lawyers get together and agreement among the heirs. We'll prepare the after sale, to transfer the documents and maybe do it through the judgment of possession. So it's not a real burdensome process.
And one thing I want to talk about estate planning before we sort of take our last break. And I'm not being critical. Everybody has his own style, but more is not always better. I like, your estate plan doesn't have to be terribly complicated if you don't have a complicated estate. And, to me, simple is better. And doing what you got to do to accomplish your too cute. That's it. That's that Christian Brothers philosophy there. They say, keep it simple, students. So there you go. All right, let's go to our final break. Dex and Terry Albert, Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief time out. All right, let's do coming back in for the last one. Hey Fighting Tigers. Yeah, Hey Fighting Tigers. Yeah. There you go. Think alike. Where'd your parents grow up in St. Tammany? Or your dad? Gotcha. I gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. I live in Manville. That's what. Yeah. I live in the best neighborhood. I live in Beauchene. It's the best. It's freaking, it's just a great kid. My only regret was I didn't move here sooner. But Mandeville's beautiful. It's beautiful. The thing about Mandeville is everything works here. You don't like, I don't even know our politicians because they do everything right. There's nobody, the police are good, garbage pickup's good, city services are good, the streets are good. Everything just works. And it's we take it for granted. Yeah. It's a great place to live. When did she come over? Mm-hmm. Yeah. There you go.
There's the reason and the rewards are coming together. Grab a glass with the Crown Royal rig at a stadium near you because we'll be sharing the generous spirit with fans across the country. Crown Royal, fueling game day with a generous spirit. Visit www.crownroyal.com/royalrig for more on the Crown Royal Rig Tour. Please drink responsibly.
Insurance companies have teams of professionals to fight your claim. If you want to know what their case is really worth, I'm Spencer Callahan. How about that? Spencer Callahan is one to see small
LS1670 Illinois ML Office. You know who we are, roofing and construction experts. MLRbuildersLLC.com.
Attention! Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers, so don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, You can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-848-2299. 800-848-2299. Again, that's 800-848-2299.
Back to Nicaud and Sunseri on WWL. Stream all things legal on Talk Podcast on Audacy, TuneIn, and now on the iHeartRadio app. Or connect now on the Oakland Heart Jewelers Talking Text line 504-360-1800.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be back in 2 weeks on November 16th. And then the weekend after that, November 23rd, we'll be off most of December and the first week of January, and we'll be back full time. January 11th, if they'll have us back, we haven't entered into our contract negotiations, Albert. They well, they usually happen between mile marker 13 and 14 on the Causeway Bridge. It's a very well, hopefully for LSU this week we talk about football in Alabama. I think just get back to football, sort of have a new lease on life, and see how they respond. Oh, there you go.
Everybody shoots better, everybody rebounds better, their offensive schemes are better. We're just, it's rough.
We won Monday night against the Celtics, and they were they just didn't. Something's missing. Now Zion was out with a bruised foot at that particular game, but
they have one offense. They don't have any inbounds play. Right, the ball gets thrown away or stolen frequently. They have a spread offense where everybody's standing around at the three. They did that with Jackson Hayes when he was playing here. He was 7'2". They put him in the corner. He can't shoot a three. So all he did was stagger him and double up Zion on the middle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to be more creative and find put him in the game and let him.
I think, yeah. I have my thoughts on Zion, and I don't know that he'll ever. I'd almost like for him to get back on track, perform at a high level, and then be able to move him based on his. And then, yeah, we'll see. He does. He's got too many of them.
And that way, he gets the ball as he goes left. And he beats you a number of times, but a lot of times they're overplayed it and there's doubles over there.
Right.
And those like you pull up, shoot the 10-footer.
Yeah.
And work that. Now all of a sudden, they don't know what you're going to do. And he's quick as lightning, and much quicker than the 7-footers are.
Well, we got Joe Dumars in. It's going to take, he's basically implementing a culture change. And, it may. Well, 0-4, and I think if there's maybe it may end soon. We'll see. I mean, they've been blown out basically, except for the one overtime with San Antonio. They've just been beaten down really, really bad. And yeah. And that you miss it. You miss 10 out of 15 teams make the playoffs, and you're outside looking again. So in a conference. So all right. Well, we'll be on in 2 weeks. All things legal. So stay tuned. Albert, you got 10 seconds on a send off. All right, and we'll see you in 2 weeks in all things legal. Hopefully, when we come back, we'll be talking about LSU and Alabama and LSU's great upset the week before. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. Go Tigers. Go Saints.